Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fart Fetish podcast once again. It's the very last episode of 2023, and this is the podcast where we seek to find the answer to what is fart fetish? Where might it come from? How is it enjoyed? And what are the people like who have this fetish, as well as other fetishes too? We do this on every first Friday of the month, on almost all major podcast platforms, and at fartfetishpodcast.com. You can also enjoy erotic fart stories, fart captions, and fart videos at thefartcloset.com. And you can support the podcast at the same time by doing so. That's thefartcloset.com. And now I'd like to introduce The Farting Wolf. The Farting Wolf is a popular hobbyist fart content creator on Twitter, where he has amassed a following of over 15,000 as of this episode. He has sometimes been referred to as the president of the fart fetish for his community efforts. We talk about that, as well as topics like monetization versus passion, content theft, and some of his motivations and inspirations for making content. But that's not all. We talk about so much in this episode, so stick around for the Fart Fetish podcast. At the Farting Wolf's request, and for his privacy, I have altered his voice for this interview. Thanks very much for being here, the Farting Wolf. Why don't we start with a little bit about yourself and what this fetish looks like for you?
Well, I've been in the general community for around, I guess, 5 or 6 years now and making content in some way, shape, or form, but I've been in it longer than that. But mainly today, I'm just on Twitter because that's kind of where everyone is kind of just on Twitter nowadays. And just posting vids on there and kind of just having fun, chatting with people and going back and forth with that.
Nice, very nice. I've noticed the Twitter thing being quite big. Do you happen to know when abouts that happened? It seems like it seems like in like my view, it just like I came into it late, so I just see like the whole world. Do you have any like knowledge about when Twitter started to become popular for especially this fetish?
I think whenever I started, it was kind of at the beginning of it. There might have been a handful of people that were on there. That's kind of what drew me to it, but it's definitely grown since I've been on there to a size that I didn't even think was possible for the longest time. So I would say it's within the last, if it's 2023 now and I started in 2020, the last, I guess, four or 5 years, I would say the switch is kind of made to be over on that platform as compared to like where it used to be on YouTube back in the day, and then it completely died. There's maybe like 1 or 2 people still on there trying to post stuff, but I still think that's mostly dead. And then of course you have places like this vid that are always going to be teeming with people just uploading or re-uploading or whatever. But as far as like the heart of the community being on Twitter, that's like a recent thing, I would say.
Nice, nice. It's very interesting. I haven't gotten to the chance to talk to anyone about that as of yet, so that is interesting to me. 2020, you said is when you started on, as I understand it, started on Twitter. Is that the origin of the fetish for you? Do you have like far-reaching origins, or what are the origins for you?
I mean, it goes way back. I'm definitely one of those people that have had it kind of as long as they can remember. It was definitely something that I just thought was a weird interest whenever I was younger. And then, of course, as you grow older and puberty and hormones start to hit you, then it kind of turns into something else. But yeah, I think I have memories of thinking about it or just thinking, oh, that's cool, all the way back since I was like, I don't know, in first, second grade. I mean, of course, it wasn't anything sexual at the time because I was so young, but then, that kind of just stuck with me. And then now I kind of am where I am with it now.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What kind of themes and aspects around this fetish do you find yourself enjoying?
For me specifically, and from the people that I've talked to, they all, I mean, I haven't talked to everybody, but I've talked to a good amount of people, and they all kind of are on the same page with it as far as it being just like a kind of like a gross aspect of masculinity that's kind of attractive about it. Because it's kind of seen as a more masculine thing to just do that, because the joke of women don't fart and all this other stuff. And every time it's a cartoon or something, it's always some comic relief character that's a dude that always has that ongoing joke with them of, body humor and toilet humor and shit like that. So it is just kind of one of those masculinity things that I particularly find attractive, and a lot of other people tend to.
For sure. Kind of the growing around with the guys aspect, and it's like another aspect of that.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So this is a do you find then the fetish is exists in a asexual space for you, a sexual, maybe both? What like because the what I you've called it gross masculinity. I kind of also see this as and we've talked to other people on the show as well of this. It's like a camaraderie element for sure, and a male bonding aspect. Um, do you see that as a crossover between sexuality and not, or is it just more the bro mentality and that's where it stays for you?
It's definitely a mix of both, but I will say that this fetish has kind of actually been my kind of key to unlocking the door to my own sexuality, because I was kind of in denial about it for the longest time. And then, because this was always the one thing that I was like, oh, yeah, that's something that tickles my fancy or whatever. So it was always something that I could go back to and be like, well, I know I'm into this at the very least. And then over the years, I've kind of put pieces together as like, well, I like it when guys do this, but then, I also like this and this and this and this. And then, eventually I came around to it and kind of like came out to myself. So there was that aspect of it. So it's definitely a sexual thing. And um that's partly why I'm not like a really big like sexual guy in the sense that I don't really do hookups or anything like that. So this kink, it being so sexual and being so intimate in that way, that's why I haven't done any collabs or anything like that just yet, because I kind of want to reserve that for a future partner that's also into it.
Interesting, and that's awesome. That's very awesome that you found this fetish as a maybe helping you gain acceptance toward your sexuality or what have you. That's really awesome. Are there any other fetishes or kinks that you find need to go with it, or that you found in your exploration over this time that you really enjoyed?
Nothing that is like concrete has to go with it, or I'm not getting anything out of it.
Sure.
Everything, it's kind of like an addition that you can just throw into anything, and then I'm kind of on board with it in some way, shape, or form. Not everything, obviously, but a good amount of stuff that I wouldn't generally be into, like leather or something, for example. Like, I'm not 100% into it. I mean, I think it's visually cool to some extent, but I'm not like in it like that. But if you were to throw that kink into it, then I could, go along and go with the motions and actually get a feel for it. So it's kind of it's standalone thing that I could just apply to a bunch of other stuff, and then not necessarily I need this and this to be attracted to it. It's just I'm attracted to this, and if you add anything else on top of it, that's just like icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely I think I could vibe with that for sure, in some of my own enjoyment as well. So how and why did you choose the name, the Farting Wolf? And does it have any special meaning or kind of story behind it?
I honestly just wanted to have something that wasn't the typical like random. And there was actually a meme on Twitter about it, about how it's weird how names in the fart fetish community are typically something that looks like an Xbox Live username from like 2008, where it's like XXX Gas Master 3255XX. Like, it's some random name for no reason. Or it's just like Richard Benson, like someone's just legal name. Like, it's one or the other. And I've found a lot of truth in that. So I was trying to find something that kind of set me apart from kind of everything that was like that. And then what really solidified it was I was just Googling shit and found somebody did like a little doodle. I don't know if it was just like for something funny to do or if it was a commission or what it was, but it was just a drawing of like a black wolf similar to what I have now, with its back leg hiked up and a gas cloud coming out the other end. And I thought it was a cool visual, but I didn't want to like straight up steal it. So I screenshotted it, I say, as I didn't want to steal it. that's basically stealing. But I've edited it a little bit, added some eyes, like thinned it up in some places, and tried to make it my own in some little way, shape, or form. But that was my like logo slash mascot for the longest time, and that's one thing about my name that I think has played out really, really well, is that it kind of gives me like a brand image almost, to where I have, again, that symbol that's kind of a lot of people, I'm not going to say everyone and sound like braggadocious, but like a lot of people know what that means at this point, because I've been around for so long and I've attached it to pretty much everything I've ever done. And it was only later on that I learned that a wolf is kind of like a body type, for like, it's not as common as like as a bear or an otter in gay world. It's apparently a gay body type that apparently I kind of fit into. I think it's more kind of muscular, hairy men. They're kind of referred to as a gay wolf. I think I've seen that in some other places, but it's not very, very common. But there are a couple dudes on Twitter that use that as kind of like their descriptor in their bios and stuff like that. So I mean, it's played out really, really well. And another thing about my name is it's brought a lot of furries to my page, which I welcome, which is fine. And that is one thing about the furry community, is that they're kind of more open to kink and stuff like that. So a lot of the art that you see is actually from them. So me having more of them in my audience than normal isn't a bad thing in my opinion.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great that you've you've taken on this moniker and found and found and put meaning to it, and even there's some meaning to it already perhaps existing in the community, which is really awesome. I love it when like things can work out like that. Maybe it's like at first seems random, and then the further things go along, it actually feels like it was more serendipitous, like it made perfect sense all along. And you mentioned your brand, uh, you mentioned being a content creator, but I notice, or at least have noticed, you're not seemingly like monetized. Would you say you're more like as a brand contributing to the that kind of pure idea that's more prominent in the gay fart fetish community, of like men farting for each other and sharing videos as like a sense of pride, this camaraderie, whether it be humor or even just personal enjoyment? Would you say that's part of your contribution as a content creator that's perhaps not necessarily in it for the money?
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of how I got into it, and how I feel it was more like that back in the day, from what I remember. And I guess the kind of like commercialization of the community has kind of been more of a recent thing, I would say, especially when OnlyFans started, and it kind of gave people an opportunity to have a way of making money other than DMing people or emailing links and having people cash app them or whatever they were doing before OnlyFans. And for me, I don't really monetize anything right now, because I don't really want to have the obligation, or have the feeling of an obligation, to put up content or kind of follow some other person's path or request or anything like that. Like, I'll do that now, and I'll take requests from fans and I'll do them sometimes, but it's still under my will, and it's totally in my control if I do it or not. But if somebody's paying me monthly and they say, I want you to do this for X amount of money, then I feel obligated to. And I just don't really want to put myself in that position right now. If I'm ever, you know, strapped for cash, or if I change my mind in the future, I wouldn't be opposed to doing any type of um, paid for content like that. But as it stands right now, I just don't really want to have a part of my plate that's already so full with college and work and stuff dedicated towards, okay, I need to get this video out because it's been X amount of days, or I told him it would be done by this week or whatever. So it's just something that I've kind of chosen to be more of a hobby that I'm doing for fun, and just kind of like a sexual outlet, rather than it being a business venture, which some people in the community go into it as a business venture, which I mean, I guess is fine, but it's whenever, you know, they're advertising their OnlyFans like in my comment section, or I follow them because they have a few good videos up and they haven't announced anything yet, and I just follow them. And then the first DM I get from them is, "Hey, can you shout out my OnlyFans? I just opened it." Like the first message you text me is, "Can you shout me out?" It's junk like that. It really sours kind of the, I guess, opinion that I have of the community that I've been in for so long, because it's like there's so many people now that are only looking at the money about it and not just like the actual enjoyment. Like, are you even into it if your first thought is money? Is my thing. And I mean, there's some people that have accounts that they don't follow anybody. They only like their own posts. They only repost their own posts. They only like comments that give them praise. They only like, put out stuff that's just, promotional, and it doesn't seem like you're actually in the community at all. So it's kind of like I don't know what to do with that. So I tend to not follow people whenever I see that kind of behavior. But I mean, if somebody's, and that's kind of a minority of people. The majority of people that do make content, they'll tease stuff and then they'll, say you can see the rest of it on whatever website they're on. But they still post stuff on Twitter and they'll still engage with other people, which is kind of the best way of doing it. And there are a lot of people like that are genuinely part of the community and like other people's stuff and repost and kind of go about it, but they also make money from it, which that's the kind of stuff that I would like to do in the future if I do make paid content.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you've shared some of the community issues we've heard on the show, but also a few that we haven't as well, which is great. I think it's really important that um I mean, this is the only way that the community will get better is by, not rudely but politely commenting and saying like, "Hey, let's try to be better,"
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think that's great that you're you're taking that on as well, or at least noticing that within your own community or within the community you frequent. You talked a bit about people, why people start making content. What is that why for you? Like what made you wanted to start what made you want to start making content, especially not being monetized, because I think that could definitely be a motivator for a lot of people is the making money, especially in the kind of money ruled system we have. What keeps you motivated? Keep making content.
Well, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it was just always a constant like interest that I had. And I remember when I was young, the first guy that I kind of found on YouTube was Will the Farter, and he's kind of been the biggest um I guess one of the, at least he was kind of the one that initiated the fire that still burns in me for this thing. Um, and it was just seeing him be in all the stuff that he was in, because he was in the Jackass movie doing something, and then he was also on a. I didn't even know the show existed until he had a segment on it. It was called How We Do It, where we had Howie Mandel, and he was like a farter in one of their pranks on somebody, and then he was on. I think he's like a kind of a reoccurring appearance on Howard Stern, where he just rips ass into the microphone, and that was definitely something that whenever I was younger and I didn't have the ability that I have now, I thought it was just so. I just thought it was really really cool to be able to pretty much put out the what he was putting out just kind of like at the drop of a hat. So that's what kind of got the ball rolling for me to try to start learning how to fart on command. And then I think whenever I found like tutorials on how to do it online, and then I just kept practicing, and then eventually I think I was either 12 or 13 whenever I first learned how to inhale and how to actually do it. And then over the years it's just gotten easier and easier and better for me. But the thing was is that I had the skill of what, he was doing, but I wasn't really social with it. I wasn't like going to school and like, hey guys, look what I can do type of thing. That wasn't really my vibe with it. And it still isn't today. at least publicly. So I just had this ability that I wasn't really able to really do anything with, but kind of impress myself. So I decided to start looking into what I could do to share it. And then I saw YouTube as an option, but I was too nervous natured at the time. But there was an app, I think it was on Android and iPhone, but and it actually got like some news coverage on a couple random news channels. It was called Fartners, and it was just like an app, and the whole branding of it was the social media platform for your ass. And it was just like a little app where you can upload fart audios with like a little description or like a little title. You can really add much of a description other than the title. And then people would follow you, and then what you would do is you would scroll through your feed, and all your followers would post their farts or whatever, and then you would rate them from like 1 to 10. And it was just like it was like a little community on this random app. So I decided to start on there because I thought it was safe. It was just, you know, posting audios, and I didn't have to show anything. I didn't have to get in front of a camera, get any type of lighting or angle or anything set up the way I wanted. I could just blow into the microphone and kind of get the reaction that I was kind of wanting to get out of people with it. And I was on there for a while, and then I think the app finally shut down. I can't remember when it was, but that was a sad day. And then I eventually moved to YouTube, wherever I was trying to do the same thing, where I was just posting the audios. I wasn't posting any type of video content for the first couple months. And I mean, just the audios of what I was doing. And then I started to get more comfortable with it, decided to start posting videos where I'm actually in front of the camera doing it, give people an actual visual of what I'm doing. And then went from YouTube, then I went to Instagram, and then I was on Instagram for a little while, met a couple people on there. And then I eventually found Twitter, where I kind of found where most of the people were at, and found a platform where it was more of that social aspect that I was looking for all the way in the beginning. Because, Twitter is very much a app that's kind of dedicated towards reacting to what somebody just did. Like, stuff's not categorized the same as it is on YouTube or Instagram, where it's just a wall of people's content. You get to see, what they commented, and see what they retweeted, and see, what they're engaging with and how they're engaging with other people, or, other types of content. That's what I really liked about Twitter, and that's what made me kind of stick to that platform forever, because of the social aspect. And I guess that's kind of where I've been just at mentally with it. And that's why I kind of decided to close my YouTube and decided to deactivate my Instagram, because I wasn't really getting that type of feedback that I was really wanting from those platforms, but I was getting it from Twitter. So it was kind of just getting that type of camaraderie, and kind of just being able to actually talk to people, and not just post a video and then scroll through comments. I was actually able to post a video and see people reply with their own videos, or see people reply with GIFs, and, also comments and stuff like that. It was just more social. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into it, for that social aspect. And then I eventually found Twitter, which really satiated it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the Twitter platform has definitely been, um, for all its toxicity and problems, it definitely has uh, really, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure other people like other social media, but Twitter has definitely been my favorite in terms of just the potential for interaction, and how people can interact, and the simplicity of it. Whether it be like, oh, here's a video that relates to what you're talking about, or here's a funny gift that I find as a reaction to what you're saying, or whatever is. Twitter's just a kind of a, I don't know. I guess it's an easier conversation in some ways than other social media platforms have become.
Yeah. And I mean, with Twitter now, like, being kind of on the rocks, like, no one knows if it's going to be gone in the next couple years, or what they're going to do with it, because it's always some stupid decision coming from higher ups to like change the name to X or whatever. I'm not calling it X. That's dumb. But it's just always something that people are asking or putting forward, like, okay, well, I've made an account on this other website in case Twitter goes down, and I'm gonna what are we going to do whenever Twitter goes down? And I've flat out said in one of the tweets, I was like, if Twitter goes down, I think I'm just going to go down with the ship, because I don't know if I want to restart again with another platform, especially if it's completely different and it's more like Instagram or more like YouTube or whatever. It's just the Twitter platform has been like a godsend for the community, I feel, because again, it gives that social aspect with being able to post video and stuff like that that other platforms just don't really have. So seeing it kind of be on the decline for the past, I don't know, year or year and a half, 2 years, whatever, it does kind of worry me too, because I've built up this community and connected with people. Some people I only know on Twitter, like I don't know their Snapchat or any other platforms that they have. So if it goes down, I mean, I'll lose a lot of those connections and a lot of those friends that I've made, and it'll suck. But I mean, it's not really in my power to change much of anything. It's just something I got to keep on the radar.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. In terms of your content, do you have a genre or a type of fart video that you enjoy making the most? And then if that's different than what's most popular from your audience, what's that?
Well, I mean, what I've figured out over the years is the video that you don't think is going to really do much of anything blows up, and the video that you think is going to like absolutely kill it doesn't. I don't know why that is. I think it's just because, your brain isn't exactly wired up as the majorities. But for me specifically, I've just been making content that, I would want to see. And that's the kind of tip I give everybody whenever they're first starting out. And I mean, they see that I've found success doing it, and they try to ask for tips and tricks and stuff. And I just tell them, just make what you would want to see, because it kind of shows whenever somebody's doing a scenario or doing a concept that you can tell that they're not passionate about or something that they're not into. And that kind of kills the whole energy of the video and kind of makes it less attractive for that reason. And for me, I really like the kind of nonchalant, more grounded, more realistic type videos. So and I mean, that resonates with a lot of people. And I mean, those videos that get a lot of traction for me are kind of in that vein, where it's like, one of the most popular like series that I have is the gamer fart videos, where I'll just put the camera behind me and have, a game going up on the TV, and it's kind of just like a POV of me laying down on the bed and you being player two on the other side of the room or whatever. And the game's in the view of the camera, and then I'm also in the like bottom left of the camera. So you have 2 points of kind of like visual interest of what's going on the screen and what I'm doing. So it's just like, it looks like a scenario that you can kind of put yourself in, and you can imagine what happens before and after, because it's just something, again, casual, nothing outlandish or crazy that you got to try to convince yourself of to get into. But that's been a very, very popular series for me. One that I actually like, and I think that's more of just like a personal preference, or you kind of like them or you don't really like them, is I've done a few videos in like a bathtub or something like that, and just bubbles and stuff everywhere. And I just find that concept cool. And I mean, the few times that I've posted that, it hasn't performed the best, but I wouldn't be opposed to making another one, just because I personally think it's a cool concept. And the people that are into those types of videos, those are like some of their favorite that they've ever seen, because they always tell me. So that's kind of like where you find, your interests are either being reciprocated or not 100% the same as everybody else's in the community. Because one of them that I've actually got a bunch of requests for over the years because I used to film videos just like in basketball shorts a lot, and I get requests every once in a while from people that are into that particular type of clothing with the videos that they want me to keep. They want me to make another video with those basketball shorts, and the thing is like I just don't find them attractive looking, so I don't really make those videos. But again, that's just an example of where the interests are different.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. We talked a bit about monetization um, in the community, and you shared some thoughts. But I'm curious. Like we've talked on this show about um, the community expectation in the gay fart fetish community of uh, an expectation of most people, every person, every man in the community to contribute and I guess provide is not the right word, but I guess offer content to uh, everyone else in the community. Um, do you find this paradigm to actually be true? And what do you think about it as like a non-monetized, community contributor like yourself?
Well, I mean, I've always been um, accepting and been very open to sharing stuff that isn't already on my um, like public Twitter or anywhere else like that. And I think it's like a really good social thing that the gay community has that the straight community doesn't really participate in, because it's like a mutual trade of like I offer this and you offer that, and then we're both happy at the end of it. And it's not like one sided or anything like that. And but I mean, I know there have been talks on the podcast before about people that are just kind of only takers and never give. And then if you were to ask, well, why don't you give anything? Then they're say, well, I'm only a sniffer, even though, it's not hard to just film something just to say you tried, I guess. And that's what I mean, because I make free content and because I've been doing it for so long, and I mean, people have seen a lot of it, they'll send me content, and then I'll say, well, I'm sorry, I don't have anything in my gallery right now to kind of send back. Because what I would do in the past is I would, you know, if I had any offcuts from a video, whether they be just like not up to my personal standards, or if the lighting was weird, or if the camera didn't focus right, or whatever, I would keep that video for trading purposes. But you can tell what video it was from because of the way everything is set up. I used to do that and would send them that. But there would be times, like I said, where I wouldn't have anything in my gallery to send, and I would like, I don't want to be a freeloader, but thank you for sending stuff. And they were like, dude, you've got me off so many times, you ain't got to worry about it. So that's kind of my privileged position of being able to, I guess, get while not giving directly. But that's because I give a lot to everyone, I guess. So it's kind of like a, oh, I got you, don't worry about it type of thing. But I think it's very, very, like a very, very good part of the community to see that is this kind of trading system to where it's not all just people being a provider and somebody like, okay, gimme, 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 because that wears on you, and that gets very annoying after a while, because you're not getting anything out of it, but I'm giving you something to where you get everything out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's the not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it's possibly the road that goes to um, what the straight side has, which is essentially pure monetization. There's really no content exchange unless it's thievery, but there's no there's nothing, I guess, shared, as it were, from at least from the provider themselves. And that leads me to this question: is people like yourself and looking at the community as you've been in it, do you think this expectation of uh, you know, farters and sniffers, this trading paradigm, do you think it will continue, or do you think the monetization is heavily changing these paradigms, and is it for the better or worse?
I think it'll just be a constant in the community. I think it's always been an aspect of it to some degree, because even whenever I was like on Instagram and stuff back in the day, it was still something that I would get asked. So I mean, it's always been sort of there, or if it hasn't always been there, it's been there for a very long time. So I don't see it really going away. Even though people are making paid content, the thing is that I've actually gotten from other creators different things for free just for making content. And like I've been one guy actually gave me like a free year subscription to his OnlyFans just for being friends and stuff. And then I've gotten free subscriptions to OnlyFans and stuff like that from other people as well. Or sometimes people like, I haven't uploaded this to, OnlyFans or anything just yet, but I'll send it to you for free. Like, I mean, even the people that are making like monetizing what they make, they still make an effort to trade with people that, are not giving them money. They are trading because they're genuinely in the community and they genuinely just want to trade. And that's what they have, is that content. So I feel like people like that will continue to, trade with kind of the bigger people and the people they consider friends. And then, the rest they can, pay however much a month to see it a couple days later or what have you.
Yeah, that's a really great thing, though. That is a really great note about the especially the gay side, or I guess exclusively maybe the gay side of the community, is that uh, it is a community. I guess is the simplest way to put it. Is I think a lot of times the straight side doesn't feel as much like a community. Part of this show is I tried to help it feel more like a community, but I think the fact that the gay community, the gay fart fetish community has kind of has that built in, I think is really really awesome, and I'm sure it's really supportive.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something, and I haven't been really privy to what goes on the straight side of the community until kind of listening to this podcast. And not to sound like it was like, oh, I pity you, but it's really sucks that that side of the community is kind of the worst aspects of our community are just kind of the core of what's going on the straight side, and that sucks so much because you know there's ways of going about it on both sides to where it's more adult and more you know fair to people, but there's always going to be um the people that kind of just don't care and just go in there to get off and then leave, or I'm not accepting your friend request unless you give me something, or I'm not sending you this video unless you buy pay this much money or whatever. And that's like, again, the worst aspects of of our community, and again being kind of the core of what's over there.
Absolutely. And you touched on something interesting. I would want to say, like, it's a bit there's a dehumanizing aspect, and I think it's easy on the fan side to do that, of like dehumanizing or not thinking about someone's human aspects when they're a content creator. But you mentioned something too that I think there is a can be a dehumanizing aspect on the creator to fan aspect of like, no, I can't, give you anything unless you pay yada 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 or whatever. I think there is like a that lack of community building, or that lack of camaraderie feeling in that. Like, sure, monetization makes sense. Nobody should do anything for free that they don't want to. But the way you talk like about community, I think that should, it should be extended. Like anyone who's participating in this fetish, making content for this fetish, it would be nice if it that community feeling and aspect kind of bled over to everyone, whether they were a fan or a content creator, and everyone like stayed aware of some of the negative aspects. Which that brings me actually to one of the important ones you mentioned, is content theft, which is definitely something we've talked about on the show. Even in the gay fart fetish community can even constitute sometimes identity theft as people start sharing videos as if they are them. Thankfully, I know people have said most people recognize these videos and know they're stolen, but I'm sure it still can be an issue for people who may be green or new to the community. Have you had your content stolen? And what, if anything, can be done to combat this type of theft?
More times than I could even count at this point. Even just the other day, I was on this vid or something, just scrolling through. I don't typically go on that website just because the layout's kind of janky and I rather go somewhere else for similar content. But I would just scroll through kind of like recently uploaded. And I'm like, oh, there I am. Oh, there I am again. Oh, there's another person posting a video that I deleted like 4 years ago. Cool. Like it's just constantly seeing that type of stuff on different sites and other places like that. Even on Twitter, I think it was 2 days ago. Um, one of my friends in the community told me on Snapchat, he was like, did you give him permission to re-upload this? I was like, I never give people to, never give permission for people to re-upload any of my stuff. So no. So I go to the page and then it's like one of my more recent videos where I'm just like sitting in bed and they just completely, they didn't like retweet it. It's one thing to retweet something, it's another to download the video or screen record the video and then re-upload it with a new caption under your name. And the caption was just like, I wish I was in that bed with him or something. And I left a comment and said, you're not getting in my bed by stealing my content, dude. Like, that's not the way to do it, believe it or not. And that tweet event, like that reply actually got a good amount of likes from people and everyone was like, ooh, you got burned or like caught or whatever. And I mean, it was good to see that other people were, seeing my irritation with it and seeing my kind of jab and kind of sticking with my side. But that video still continued to grow in likes. If anything, it was at like 30 something likes whenever I called it out. And whenever I look back at it after I had replied to it, it had like over 100 or something like that. So even whenever the content creator says, hey, this is my content and it was stolen, point and laugh at this person for stealing it, it's still the people that scroll through their feed and just, again, like kind of come and go and don't really give a shit like about the ethics about anything will still see that the video is uploaded, it's right in front of their eyes, and they'll still like it, even though I'm right below it saying, hey, don't like this. This is my video. It was stolen. I don't give consent for this being here. But they still like it. So it's really weird. But I mean, I've gotten horror stories even from other people in the community. Older guy that I know in the community, him and his abusive ex used to make content, and I'm not going to name names because of privacy and all that stuff.
Sure.
But it was like, he's an absolute teddy bear of a man, like seriously one of the nicest people I've ever met. But he made content with his abusive ex and eventually they fell out and a bunch of other stuff happened. And either way, all the videos got deleted of the two of them. And then lo and behold, one of these re-upload accounts decides to re-upload the video and tag him and tag, say this is so and so and his boyfriend or whatever. And then he DM'd him and was like, hey, can you please remove that? That's like, personal and I don't, have anything to do with that person anymore. And the response from the account that re-uploaded and stole that person's content was, I'm within my rights. It's staying up, or something along those lines. So it's just crazy to see that the people that kind of keep this community going, which is content creators like you and I, are the ones that get mistreated by the people that'll say, well, I'm within my rights. It was posted on a public account. This is the internet. But I mean, that doesn't mean that it's your content to steal. Just because I hear a song on the radio doesn't mean, just because I heard it again on the radio and it's free for me to listen to the radio, I can't go up to it with a microphone and sample it and not give credit to Taylor Swift or whoever song it was. That's why there's like copyright on stuff. And I understand that it's fart fetish videos. It's not that big of a deal. Like, of course, no one has a copyright on their stuff on Twitter, but it's just like, that's the basis and like kind of the groundwork for how you should treat this stuff ethically. either tag me in it so I can see it and retweet it or say thank you for whatever, just retweet it normally, just hit a button rather than screen record it and re-upload it that way, or just leave a good comment, or pin it somewhere where you can get to it easily or whatever, and just leave it at that. Don't steal it. And I know it's that behavior specifically that prevents this community from growing in many ways, because I've had people tell me that they would love to start making content or be more social with it and post their own videos, but they don't want to because they're afraid it's going to get stolen. And I mean, there have been people DM me multiple times saying, "Hey, this guy, uploaded my video without my consent. I kept telling him I didn't want it up here, and he keeps, ignoring my texts, or he keeps doing whatever." And I mean, I've kind of become the police of the community in that sense, because I go over to their account and signal boost that, hey, this guy is stealing content and, stealing it from people that don't want it up at all and have begged for it to be up, and they just, give them the cold shoulder or whatever. And I've done that a few times now, and there's one specific account that keeps coming back, and he's back on Twitter now. At Proctophilia Plus, he was re-uploading people's content, and some of which was whenever using videos from YouTube that clearly show minors, like their book bags are on the floor and they look young, and they're in the living room after school, and it's just like a comedy video for them, but he's re-uploading it and trying to charge people. I think one of his plans, quote unquote, was like $50 a month for access to all these videos that he's stolen. And this was one of the accounts that was stealing the people's things that were DMing me, or someone similar to him. So I eventually, retweeted, blocked the person, and tweeted out, "Hey, this person's stealing content, trying to charge people $50 a month for it. Like, some of this is people's paid content that they've put on other sites that he's somehow gotten access to and re-uploaded and all this stuff." And after about, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks, he got banned, and his other account got banned, because I went out there and signal boosted to get this person, block them, report them for identity theft or something, to get them out. And they've tried to come back a couple other times, and I think they're even on Twitter right now under one account that's in Spanish, because he thinks if he just makes it not in English, then people won't catch him for some reason. And there's a few other accounts that he goes under. But he keeps trying to get in the community and just re-upload. He's not trying to sell anything anymore, but it's still the same guy. So I don't know. It's just really dumb. But I mean, we all try. Everyone in the community tries. I won't say everyone, because there are people that still follow these accounts and like their posts and stuff, like I mentioned earlier. But a good amount of people, at least the people that follow me and see what I post about it, try to police it the best way they can by reporting the accounts, or just blocking them so they don't get their content stolen and stuff like that. So there's a pretty continuous effort to get content like that not on platforms or in the community at all, because we all hate it. All content creators hate it. The only people that like it are the lurkers or the come and go people that don't care where it's from. They just want to see the video now so they can get off and get on with their day or whatever. But I don't know. It's one of those issues that seems to be a constant thing, because as soon as we get those accounts banned, they pop back up within another month or two, and then it's the same situation all over again. And then I'll see people on Twitter, "Hey, he's back. What do we do?" And then I'll send that SpongeBob gif of, "How many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man?" It's tiring. And that's why I don't do it as much as I used to. I used to, every single time he would pop up on Twitter, I would try to call attention to it and say, "Hey, he's back. He's going to start stealing your stuff. Everyone block him, report him, do what you got to do," because he's done it before in the past. Or even if it's not just him specifically, these accounts, they're all pretty much the same in some way, shape, or form. Or if there's a new account that I don't know about, I try to call attention to it. But either way, they do the same thing over and over, and I try to bring attention to it. But it's tiring. It really is, especially when there's not a whole lot of stuff you can actually do. Like you can only report him once per account, and then you have to sit and wait and wait and wait for Twitter to see it, and then it's still kind of weird because you're like reporting a fart fetish account. So it's like I don't even know if the people at Twitter are going to take this seriously to get the person banned, even though they could be doing serious stuff like stealing paid content or posting videos of minors that don't even know that this video is on the internet anymore, let alone that it's being re-uploaded and in other situations charged to watch. So it's a constant issue, and I wish it was something that we can all kind of just stomp out, but there's always going to be those bad actors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was a wild tale you shared, but I appreciate it too because that definitely gives a an insight into kind of the depth of the issue because you think it's just you think it's maybe like people who just bought the content once and then now they're sharing it to this vid or whatever, but and maybe that is some, but for others there's a whole like whether it be economy or just weird um uh, need to foster this community but based on false pretenses, which is really dark. And you kind of touched on one of the other issues um that is big is content that is maybe sexualized but wasn't necessarily intended, like I think this was definitely more or definitely common in the days of YouTube. Maybe now it happens on Twitter or other platforms where things can be shared without necessarily filters or AI assuming it's sexual just based on titles or descriptions or whatever. But people who might be just farting on camera and finding it funny and sharing it, and then you have who I would presume are fetishists, but maybe not, maybe just other creepsters that come in and make tactless comments, creepy, sexual on videos that maybe didn't have any intention of being that way. It seems like the unfortunate lack of self awareness that's in some of the community that may not be, remedied until or if those people ever reach that self awareness. But what about you? Do you think there's anything that can be done about this? You mentioned policing in the previous example. Is that something you find yourself policing as well?
Not me specifically, and I mean I don't even think people. I know. I mean I've spoke out against it, and I know a couple other people have spoke out against it, but and I haven't really seen because I usually stick to Twitter and stuff where the content that I'm seeing is kind of dedicated to it, so it is legitimate, like legitimately, um, like fart fetish, targeted. It's not me scrolling through TikTok, where that's kind of the biggest one that I've seen, where people are just uploading it for fun and then the comments are weird. So there might be policing in those comments that I just don't see because I'm not looking in the right places, I guess, because again, being on Twitter, it's usually on there for that purpose. But TikTok, if I was on there, would probably have more of those creepy comments and stuff, and there might be policing in it that I just don't know. But the one time that I did see some of it kind of like live and in person was on TikTok again. And it was this guy that was on TikTok just doing like a couple fart videos or whatever just for fun. Like one of them was like he was trying to start a lawnmower and couldn't get it going and then put his ass to the gas cap and ripped one in it. Like that was obviously comedy, obviously. And that's the thing that a lot of people, for some reason, do not get through their head is that what we find sexually attractive for whatever reason is comedy to 99.9% of the population. Like it just is. So going into a comment section of a person that, post that video for that 99.9% of people that are just like, haha, this is funny. And then being weird and acting as if you put your phone number or if you ask them to do it again or like whatever, is going to elicit a reaction of that person going with what you're saying, especially whenever everyone else around them, it was like, what is wrong? Like the comments under that comment are like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, what are we like? Everyone in the comments is just putting laughing emojis and you're over here talking about doing it in my mouth. Like what? Like you can pick up on social cues in comment sections whenever you scroll down and see like the comments are all just laughing about something and then you're being unnecessarily horny in it. And that guy that posted those videos, he would go live on TikTok and would just be with like his friends or whatever and be in the garage. And every once in a while, someone would dare him. It was like, can you do it for 30 seconds or whatever? And then he would do it live. And then all the comments at the time would be going, you know, crazy for the reasons that are obvious to us, but not to anybody else. So, you know, he would look at the cameras like, what is wrong with that guy that keeps commenting that? And they would all laugh about it, like, this is weird. But you can tell it's awkward for these people. So it's just disrespectful to them to go about it in that way. And I mean, it ultimately paints us all as a bunch of creeps, because if you can't look at that situation and be like, oh, yeah, this is not intended for what I'm looking at it as. So maybe I should just silently admire or go away, because that's kind of the only acceptable way to go about it in my mind. So I just sat there and didn't really comment or anything like that. I just thought it was impressive. But of course, the people that wanted to be vocal and try to make a scene out of it are the ones that get noticed and are the ones that are pointed at and say, this is what this community of people are like. And that's the stuff that kind of like puts us back in the public's eye so much. And it sucks that we are kind of represented by the worst of us in that sense.
For sure. That tends to be the way people's minds work. I feel like I've shared similar sentiment on the show about like fart fetish in general. Like if people don't hear fart fetish, don't understand it, they might immediately assume a scat fetish because maybe they've heard that, they remember Two Girls, One Cup or whatever, that they can't make that differentiation. So it is true that often, and I'm not calling scat fetish a worse element, but whatever people's worst, idea in their head, that tends to be what they go with and what kind of paints the entire community. And another reason why the show exists is to hopefully combat that. If people have that misconception, they Google something and then like, oh, there's a whole podcast about this, let me listen to normal people have normal conversations about this admittedly weird and, too, as you say, humorous to some aspect. And I, hopefully that is the show helps give them nuance if they're open to it.
Yeah, and with my thing that I've noticed, and I don't think I've maybe talked to maybe two or three people where this isn't the case, but there is usually people that have this kink. There is a hard line whenever it comes to scat for most that I've noticed. And it's the fact that hard line that all of us will be like, yeah, I mean, if you're into it, good for you. I'm not, going to say anything. I'm in no position to kink shame about nothing, but that's just not for me. Like, there's that hard line for a lot of people, but there is still that confusion of like, well, if you like this, then you must like that. Like, it just makes sense. Like, but it's not the same thing in almost any way, because there's actual like people that will stand in front of you and say, I do not like this, even though I like this. And some people will still say, well, it's still like in a gray area for me mentally because it is so close or whatever. But it's just the fact that there is that distinct delineation between the two, but you still get lumped in with the other half that is viewed more, how it, I guess viewed worse in some way, shape, or form. Again, not kink shaming or not saying that's bad or anything like that. I'm just saying in the public's eye, it would be easier for them to digest somebody being into air coming out of somebody's ass than anything else, basically, is what I'm saying.
Sure, sure, absolutely. I mean, even there's a um what do you, I was gonna say vernacular, but there's even like a cultural awareness around like queefing, for instance. So the idea of like air um expulsion, I guess, is not foreign at all. But I think and even enjoying it necessarily. But I think the latter, the consumption of scat and such, or even enjoying it, again, not in any kink shame way, but admittedly much more extreme for the vast majority of the population.
Yeah, and the thing, and I've always said that if like vanilla sex, whether it be anal for gay men or just straight up regular sex for straight couples, um, it's like if that's vanilla, then this kink and this not just this one specifically, there are a bunch of others that I would consider in this like the flavor level. I'm gonna put it as um, is like caramel. Like it's not really that complex or that different than vanilla. It's just like sweeter and it's got a little bit more to it. But it's not this crazy out there like Flavor Town Guy Fieri thing that other people think that it is. It's just like a step above vanilla is what I view it as, because it really isn't much when you think about it. I mean, and that's one of the things whenever if somebody says they don't like something or they don't get something or they denounce something on the basis of it being gross. um Basic like regular sex is gross. I mean, if you look at fluid exchange and then making if you make out with somebody, you're swapping spit. If somebody put a spit in a cup and said drink it, you wouldn't do it. But if they make out with me, then you're drinking their spit at the same time. It's just a different form. So the perspective of it is kind of the big thing in that sense. So it's all gross. So saying I don't like that because it's gross is kind of a non-argument to me. If you say that's too gross for me, that's something. But we're all on the basis that we're all gross, pretty much. And it's just gross to be human. So the argument of I don't like that because of that is kind of dumb to me. So if we all kind of just got on this level of, okay, we're all gross in some way, and some people just like it a little bit, higher on the scale in that way, and that's fine. But it's just the idea that people are 100% squeaky clean and then going at it with each other's genitals is just like that's not a clean activity. So it's kind of the idea of it and the way it's presented sometimes whenever people try to denounce it is kind of annoying in that way too.
It's very true. You touched on two very good points or realizations or what have you, that yeah, the kind of hypocrisy of people. And one of them was yeah, I don't think farting, for instance, is too far off of things that I think people would be more readily willing to admit, like armpits. And when I say armpits, I don't even mean like dirty armpits. Like people might like the smell of a clean armpit or what have you. Other parts of the body, neck, the aroma of the body in general, like our partners. I think there is definitely something to that I think people would much more readily admit to being true. But then you say farting and they're like, no, there's no possible way, and they don't even maybe want to explore it. Maybe they don't want to know. The other one was uh what you said about like kissing and how you fact you now spit in a cup and now drink it. Nobody want to do that. I don't remember the exact study. I think it was, and it was also being shared secondhand on a podcast I really enjoy listening to, Behind the Bastards. But they were talking about a study in which uh they found people would do many things uh, when they're aroused that they would not consider doing when they weren't aroused. So, like for instance, like I mean, people swallowing cum, for instance, like you're in the heat of passion and this is happening and you're into that. That you may do that, but someone's like, here's the cup of cum, drink it. Like, no, of course you're not going to do that, because one, it's the arousal itself that can fuel that passion. And I think that even ties back into farts as an aspect of aroma not being that odd is, in the heat of passion or a passionate um, romance or lovemaking or what have you, whatever verbiage you want to use, uh, I think we would surprise ourselves in what our bodies may enjoy and what our minds may even want to explore further.
Yeah, and I mean, especially I think of it for um gay men specifically who, or even straight couples, like anal is one of like the most common porn search terms. So the you're already content with the fact that you're, dealing with that part of somebody's body and, going forth with what you're going forth whenever it comes to having sex in that way. But whenever like a sound comes out of it, then it's, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like it's kind of hypocritical in that sense because you're already, even like ass eating, like that's just a joke at this point. Like everybody's like, you eat ass, and they'll say, yeah, and most people do. It's just like it's kind of like whatever at this point. But as soon as like anything comes out of it, it's just like, okay, well now I can't do it anymore. And it's just kind of like you're already there. You're already kind of doing whatever, just like a teaspoon worth of air coming out making a funny noise isn't really something to go and kind of stand on a soapbox and say this is gross and people who are into this are weird. It is, especially whenever it's like what I do specifically whenever it's farting on command and it's not, you know, necessarily gas that came from the digestional, the thing of digestion. Like it's not actual like methane and gas and stuff from your gut bacteria. It's just me inhaling air from the other end and blowing it back out the way I want to. And so even for that, and I mean, I understand there is an aspect of it. It was like, oh, it came out of, whatever part of your body. And some people still will, for whatever reason, and I mean, there are reasons for it, obviously, we'll still find that gross no matter what. And that's fine. But if you're the type of person to already go through with having anal sex or eating ass or whatever, if a sound comes out of it and then you're taken aback and acted like, you were assaulted or something, it's kind of like a weird thing for me for people to make that mental leap whenever it's, again, it already is what it is and you're already there with it. So it's not like a giant leap that you think it is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. What I appreciate, it's a weird segue, but I appreciate the passion in which you speak to on all the topics that you've shared thus far. And you talk about, and you've mentioned that community is a super important element. How do you feel, or how have you built and fostered your community, and why is community important to you?
Well, I mean, for me in particular, just making videos throughout the years and stuff like that, and getting to know people and acting like a person online with people when it comes to this stuff, and not this um, god and master and stuff that a lot of people try to put that persona on online, and it can get old kind of fast because it's one thing if you're in the heat of the moment with somebody and you're, doing a master dom thing, that's fine. But whenever it's just like you leave a comment in somebody's post and there was like, yeah, I bet you like that fag or whatever, it's like, it's just weird how you keep that thing going for forever. And there's not any time that you lower your wall and just make a joke and poke fun at yourself or whatever. And that's what I try to do in my community. And I mean, there are actually a couple people that'll make, like, some people have made edits of my videos and I've reposted them because I thought they were funny, or people who leave funny comments or whatever, and then I kind of dig in with it, like, try to laugh along with them. Or I'll personally make memes or short little videos to kind of like poke fun at the community in a lighthearted way. And a lot of that resonates with a lot of people and they appreciate it. And even if it's not just trying to um, connect in that way, it's like doing polls that I'll do occasionally where I'll try to ask people, is like, hey, when did you find out that this was something for you? Or, you know, do you prefer hairy or shaved? Or like, you just like trying to pick pick people's brains with this stuff and try to like actually ask them a question rather than just feed them content and then, you know, in the comment section kind of try to play up this role that is like too serious for what it is, I guess. And I mean, and it's not just me doing this. There's a lot of other creators that really do try to have a connection with people by running, fart threads or doing other polls or again making memes and stuff of their own that they post. And I always try to engage with and laugh along with and be like, I want to try to make something later that's similar to what you did. And it's just things like that that kind of bring everybody together to be like, it's weird that we're all kind of bound together by this weird interest, but I mean, we're all sitting here laughing together and we're all kind of having a good time in some way, shape, or form, kind of laughing at ourselves along the way. And, just trying to make a community out of something that otherwise, if you kind of just let it be at face value, which some people do, and then just see it as like a way to get off or some little sexual thing that they open Twitter for 5 minutes, come, and then they leave. Meanwhile, again, we're trying to do a little bit something more and try to actually get to know people.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. In fact, you've even said you've been called the president of the community by some. Like, how did that come about, and what do you feel like you do as president of the community?
Well, I mean, it's I've got a few comments similar in that vein. Um, because of what I do with the trying to signal boost whenever people are going through a tough time with, having their stuff stolen or trying to, again, just engaging with people in a way that's not performative or trying to play up or seem boastful or try to, again, play something more serious than it needs to be. And it's just nice to see that that's kind of resonated with people and they see, that I'm having fun. I'm having fun, kind of like just as much fun of them watching my videos is me having fun, like watching their reaction, I guess, and seeing that people notice that and then they would, go as far to say as like, you're the president of the community or like you got my vote or, even just like little things that are similar to that. It's just heartwarming in a weird way because again, it just shows that all my efforts to kind of bring people together with it are really working and people are appreciative of it.
That's really great. That's really great. And I noticed too, as I was looking through your Twitter, some of the community efforts um, I noticed have been like trying to vote on and establish like a hanky code color for proctophilia and like a code word or an acronym like water sports, for instance, for golden showers. Uh, First of all, could you explain what the hanky code is for anyone who's not familiar? But also, why are these efforts important to you, and why did you take them on?
I'm like not going to be the biggest expert in it, so I can't tell you like where it originated or what year it started to come out. But just the general overview of hanky code is kind of just like a way for gay men to kind of advertise what they're into, what they're looking for, or what their role is in like a sexual kink or position or whatever publicly by putting a handkerchief in their back pocket, whether it be the left or the right, of a certain color or pattern to kind of, you know, show visually what it is without saying it. So, like yellow, I think, is water sports. And if it's in the left pocket, you're more the dom in the situation where you're the one urinating. And then the sub would put it in their right pocket to show that they're kind of more into, receiving it. And there's a bunch of other kinks that are on there. It's like the list is, I don't even know how many are listed on there. There was like 40 or 30, 40 or 50 different colors to represent different things. And sometimes they're the same color, but they got a different pattern that means something different. It's just like a fun little thing of gay culture that's not really used anymore that I know of. Maybe in like clubs or at prides or something, people will do it as like a throwback, but I don't know if it really like gets people connected like it used to. But for me, it was just the fact that I was seeing hanky code being, having a meaning, or having like a color or whatever for all these different kinks that we weren't a part of. Like, there was, again, water sports was in it. Scat has its own color, and some of them are even just like kind of, I don't know if, like, one of them's cowboy. It's like a rust color. I don't know if that's cowboys in the sexual position or just like you like cowboys, like cowboy hats and boots. I don't know if, again, it's just like there's a bunch of ones on there, and I was like, why, like, could we not be on there? So I was trying to figure out one night, I was trying to ask the community to kind of give me ideas for what color we should be, and like what we, how we would go about it. And eventually, I think we all kind of came to the like decision that sage green would probably be a decent color, because it's different from from other shades of green that are already in the code. Like, we would have, olive green would have been really cool because it's got that little bit of um orange brownish sort of hue to it, but it was like already taken by, I think, military or army or something. It was some other um kink that was already in the code. So sage green was kind of an airy shade of green that we can kind of all be like, you can tell from a distance it's that shade and not neon green or olive green or something. It's pretty distinct from a distance. So we all kind of decided to go with that, and then I kind of mocked up, kind of squeezed us in on the list that I found online, and kind of put our colors and stuff like that on it. Try to be like, well, this is what the list would look like if we were included. Leave a vote if you think we should be included. And most people, I think 99% of people said yes, and I think you got like almost 500 votes or something like that on there. And then with the acronym, I was just trying to figure out something that was, you could say, like, whisper in somebody's ear, that's not, or like work into a conversation that isn't just, I have a fart kink. It would be something, a little bit easier to say aloud and kind of like raise your eyebrows at the person if you're trying to see if they're picking up what you're putting down without, again, just straight up saying it. And I mean, we could all probably come to a decision. I can't remember what got voted the most, and I can't remember what the options were right off the top of my head. But it would be cool if we could, get some sort of verbiage out there that isn't as obvious or more inconspicuous, to where we could do stuff like that. Because people do that with water sports, and a couple other kinks have different words for different stuff, to where they can kind of see who's who in a situation and not just straight up say, are you into this?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking too about you were talking about the hanky code and not seeing, a proctophilia there and feeling like it should be. I think, the idea of representation um is really important, and kind of it's nice. It's nice to see wherever it can be, especially in established um, community or culture paradigms. So yeah, I applaud your efforts to kind of rally up the community base and ask those questions. Have you is there a kink scene out where you are, and have you been out in that kink scene, or have you done any like activities in person or in real life?
Not that, I mean, I've recently moved, and there could be something like within throwing distance of where I am, and I probably wouldn't know about it.
Sure.
I don't think there is any type of scene out here that I know of. And I've kind of just kind of kept everything online for now. My situation's very much a like a Superman type of go into a phone booth and come out as a different person type of situation with me and Twitter, because I don't really advertise it or even hint at it really in everyday life. And I mean, it's not something, I don't feel like I'm missing out by not doing that, but at the same time, it is something I'm like, I'm not gonna, bring that up in conversation, or I'm not, really itching to tell anybody about it.
No, for sure.
But yeah, it's just something for me personally. It would again, since it is kind of something that is so tied to my sexuality, I would kind of want it to be something that's between me and a partner that's also into it. I mean, I know some people are wired different to where they can, go out and have meets and stuff like that and not have any type of sexual encounter with it. I just don't think I'm really of that mind. So I would kind of just be on the safe side. That way I don't get attached or try to make anything weird or anything like that. Even though I've gotten offers, obviously, from people, there's at least every week, there's probably at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 new people that text me trying to set up some sort of meet or something. And I've even had people offer to fly me out to places, which was really kind of like, okay, doing this now. But yeah, it's not from a lack of opportunity for me to explore it. It's just a lack of me, really wanting to go down that path with it, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. That makes sense. And no judgment or whatever about it. It's really how, as we learned on this show, it's really, um, every fetishist has a different enjoyment, different way of wanting this, and maybe that'll change for you, or maybe this is the way you enjoy it, or whatever. And as long as you're happy and enjoying it the way you want to, that's all that really matters. Uh, which kind of does tie into my next question, actually. And where we are coming to the close, unfortunately, this has been really enlightening and illuminating. But I did want to ask you, do you enjoy having this fetish, and what do you feel about it, like on a more broad basis? Um, and what makes you enjoy having, if so?
I did. I mean, I didn't for a while because it was just like I didn't really accept that like sexuality. I really didn't accept that as part of myself. So having a kink that is sexual, I was like, okay, that's not a thing. Not gonna just gonna ignore that. Whatever, whatever. Whenever I was younger, but as I've kind of grown into myself and kind of got more comfortable with it, I am kind of glad to have this kind of aspect of myself that is different because it's something that isn't just the basic vanilla whatever, and it's something that's I feel is very accessible and is actually more widespread than we really think about, at least on the gay side. And I mean, I have a good amount of women supporters, and I mean they'll comment every once in a while. I was like, hey ladies, like, I mean, it's cool to see them there. So I mean, there is more people in it than we think. I mean, there's people that don't follow me that, watch my content every time I post because they don't want to follow me on their public account, or some of them are like big on OnlyFans and they don't want their following to think of anything, so they just, DM me or whatever. And there's been a lot of situations like that. I even kind of made a post about it on Twitter a while ago. I was like, shout out to all the people that don't follow me because they don't want to get judged. Like, I still see you though. And I got like probably 20 DM requests talking about, hey, that's me. Like, sorry, I don't follow you. It's just, I don't want to draw attention to it. I was like, no, it's fine. If that's how you have to go about it, it's fine. So it's good to see that it's, again, something that's not widespread, as in it's like something that everybody's aware of and somebody is kind of willing to do, I guess. But I mean, it's more widespread than some things, and it's very applicable to a bunch of different situations. And that's why I like having fun with my videos with different scenarios, because you can basically apply it to almost anything. Any type of trope that you have of, a character, whether that be, cowboy, teacher, accountant, or firefighter, whatever. Like, if you have a fantasy for a specific role or for a specific type of dress or whatever, you can just apply this to it real easily. Like, it's not hard. And that's why, I mean, I set up a Fansly, or not Fansly, a Throne gift account for people to help help me build up outfits and stuff like that for future videos, and just to buy gifts and be, show appreciation and stuff, because I know some people genuinely just want to do that out of the kindness of their heart, which I really appreciate. And I mean, that's the thing about it, is that it's, again, so applicable to basically everyday life as well. I mean, if you're, in a relationship with somebody, and you're both into it. I mean, whenever the moment comes, just let it go and then giggle at each other and then laugh about it later. Like, I mean, it's something that's a constant in life because it is just a bodily function. So there's always going to be something happening with it in that regard. So you have your kink sort of not regulated to a specific time of day, like at night and in the bedroom or wherever. It's kind of like if you're out with your partner and you're both into it, just like do whatever you want to do, and then kind of again, you can kind of have that little moment of friskiness and then go about your day. And that's something you can't really do with a bunch of other kinks. I mean, you can't exactly pull out a whip and kind of get to town on somebody before lunch or anything like that and go back to having a normal day. But with this kink, you kind of can. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, like you can add it to other kinks and stuff, and it just elevates it even more. Like one of the common ones that I've done personally is burping and farting, and those are one of my bigger videos too, is just combining those two kind of, again, gross masculinity things that is kind of like, unashamed, being loud and kind of, again, gross about stuff, and then just kind of going, not really paying too much attention to it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about it. I mean, again, the drawbacks of it not being the most common thing in the world, that's definitely one of the big things. And I mean, meeting people online, I've only met probably online, that is only like maybe like 3 or 4 max people that are in my specific state or close. Or I mean, I've met a few that are close, like they're in neighboring states, but in my state, like in where I'm at, they've only met like a few. A lot of people are kind of spread around the world, and that's one of the biggest drawbacks of it, is because you start talking with somebody and you're kind of like, getting close and all that stuff. And then, oh, yeah, they're on the other side of the world or on the other side of the country or whatever. And that kind of complicates things. So that's a big bummer. But I mean, that kind of just shows that it's widespread, I guess. So that's an upside. But it does kind of sting when you're like, oh, yeah, it would be cool if we met up if you didn't live all the way on another continent. That would be cool. But I mean, that's allowed me to connect with a bunch of people, which I think is really cool. I mean, I've talked to people from all over the US, obviously, but I mean, Canada, Mexico, Russia, France, Italy, Australia, Sweden, I mean, Germany. I've talked to like people from all over the world just because of just because I like farted on a video, which is weird to say, but it's just one of those things about the community that it's like we're all kind of bound and kind of brought together by this. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually really cool. And that's a really cool like thing to be aware of. Cause yeah, it's certainly something we've I guess seen on the show, but not really kind commented on specifically. So that's really awesome that you did pick up on notice that. And maybe this ties into your thoughts or maybe not. What's your thoughts on the future of the fetish, whether it just be for yourself or the community at large?
I know as far as like the community at large, I feel like we're just in, and this is another thing I've kind of like posted on Twitter. It's like, are we like in a renaissance or something with it? Because I know a lot of people say, the glory days of it were when male ass rippers was a big thing on the internet, or whenever YouTube was kind of the main platform for it. A lot of people point to that and say those were the glory days of it. But I mean, maybe it's just my privileged position of being kind of like a big creator in the community. But I see it as like right now we're kind of like in the most connected time and time of growth, especially being on Twitter. And that's one of the things that make not being on your own specific website like male ass rippers or anything else like that, is that since you're on Twitter and you're kind of just in in everything, like you could get people from other communities to look at your content, and that kind of turns them on to it. And I mean, I've had people message me over the years talking about how they've never really considered this a thing, and then they'll watch my videos and then they'll get into the community from it. Or even people, if it's not just me, just people that are, finding it on Twitter and getting into it later in life. Like I know one of my favorite creators, he didn't know this was something that he was into until he was, in his late 30s, and he's like 40 something now. And he makes some of the best content out there, in my opinion. He actually makes some really, really, really good content. But it just, it just shows that it's growing, and it's growing everywhere, from people that are just getting on Twitter, or people that have been on it for a while, or just been around for a long time, and are, just now realizing that is a part of themselves that they really enjoy. And I think with bigger creators, there's I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but a pretty big OnlyFans guy has made, I think, 3 or 4 fart videos. I think he has like 220 some, I don't know. He has some really big following, and he's made a couple of like fart fetish content, and it wasn't just like kind of you're interpreting it as fart fetish content. He just like posted a funny video from a scene or something. No, I mean, it's like him fully like face farting, like grabbing their head, throwing it in his ass and stuff. Like he's making full on content that we all make, but he's in a position where he's getting, last time I checked, it had 14, I can't remember, it had something like 14, 15,000 likes or something. It was one of his most liked posts recently at the time, and it was a fart fetish video. So it just shows that people are kind of open to it, and it's just a matter of showing them. And being on Twitter and being with all the other kinks and a bunch of other people just in general shows that it's kind of helping it spread. And that's kind of what I hope to see in the future, is it just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I never thought I would get to the following that I'm at now. I mean, people ask me like, how'd you get so big? I was like, I had no idea. Like, I didn't think that this would be like as big as it was. Cause years ago, whenever it was like YouTube days, and the biggest creator was like, I think Will the Farter, and he had like 3,000 followers, 3,500 or something like that. And I'm at 14, I think 14.3 as of today, and my backup account has 3.4 or something. And I mean, there's other creators that are at 17 or above 17,000 followers, and that's all they do is art content. So that's, thousands and a couple times what I thought was even possible in this community. So that just shows that it's grown so much in the past couple of years. And again, like I mentioned earlier, with people just DMing me kind of like, hey, I just got turned on to this, within the past month or so. And I mean, they can't follow me because they don't want that, public thing, which I totally get. If you have a big following and they're kind of like iffy with it, don't worry with it. Just, if you want to DM me, that's fine. And I don't know, just seeing it grow and seeing it get more and more connected is really cool. I mean, with the monetization of everything, I can see how that does kind of put stuff in jeopardy, but I like to think that it's not as bad as it was maybe like a year or two ago, with everything being just like an ad with no sound, and just be like, go to this link to watch the whole thing. I mean, it's still on there, and there's still people with OnlyFans, and they'll continue to have them, and that's fine. It's just not as kind of in your face as it might have been a year or two ago, whenever OnlyFans was just kind of starting up and everyone was getting it. Now it's kind of like an established thing, and then you kind of assume that everyone has an OnlyFans, at least in the community, because I get so many messages, people ask me if they can get the link to it. And I'm like, I don't have one, dude. So it's just seeing it grow is one of my biggest things, and hopefully become more socially acceptable, at least with the gay side. I specifically see it being a little bit more accepted, maybe not in the sense of people being like into it like we might be, but at least being like, oh, that's a thing and it's not that crazy, because there's already so many videos of, again, just like anal noises and stuff. Like people like stuff like that anyway. So it's just kind of showing that has the potential to grow in that area as well, I guess. And as far as myself, I mean, I just want to continue. I want to continue making videos. I mean, I'm kind of putting my feelers out there, trying to meet people and see where, that kind of goes. And hopefully in the future it'll be some sort of spark will ignite, and then I'll be able to have a partner or something like that we can do something with it. But as for now, it's just continue just having fun with it, doing what I've been doing for the past couple years, and just seeing everything grow.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great. And I'm glad there are um I say the word serious, but I don't necessarily mean serious as in humorless, but like people like yourself, yourself and people like yourself that are representing this community and maybe growing this community in a very positive and I think that's amazing. That's exactly what um, this fetish needs. Which leads me to where can people find you on online or get in touch with you?
I'm only on Twitter currently. I don't really do much of anything else anywhere, even on my personal accounts that aren't, fart related. It's kind of where I put everything in that regard. So that's on at the Farting Wolf on Twitter, and then I also have a backup account just in case Twitter decides to, ban porn or something like Tumblr did, and then I go bye bye or something. I have a backup account. It's just the Farting Wolf 2, the same thing. And I try to post kind of consistently. Have been as consistent because of the move and then just life in general. But I try to post maybe at least once or twice a month, I would say. And I try to get the like offcuts and stuff like that, and try to do more fun things kind of on my backup. That way, it's kind of a little giving a little bit of content on both of those accounts. But that's where you can find me on there.
Awesome. That's really awesome. And I cannot thank you enough once again for coming on and sharing great insights, great about yourself, and just, I don't know, just so much great information and passion that you've shared with us that I cannot thank you enough once again. So thank you very much for being here, the Farting Wolf.
Well, thank you too. I mean, I think this is honestly something that the community has kind of needed for a long time, and something that I've been kind of waiting for to come along and kind of give people something to listen to kind of get different perspectives and be more introspective with how we go about having this kink within all of us.
That's great. Yeah, that's exactly why I do it, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fart Fetish Podcast in 2023. We'll be back again on the first Friday in January, and I hope to see you there as we dive deeper into the subject of aproctophilia with even more discussions from the people who have it.